It happened exactly the same to me in Latin America. I got notoriety by a speech where I was denouncing populism, socialism of the 21st century. And then the right wing was like, oh, yeah, we like her. Let's invite her. Let's put her in conferences. But then as soon as I started talking not only about economic freedom, but about individual liberties, right? Not with taxpayers' money, but issues like abortion or legalizing prostitution or even drugs, because we have a huge problem of drug dealing in Latin America, narco politics, narco corruption. That's not gonna get away with the war on drugs. And when you start tackling those issues and you express that you are an atheist and that you care about the environment, not in the leftist way of solving things, but like in market solutions for pollution, then the right wing that first supported you because you were denouncing the left, pulls out and says, "Oh no, but you're talking about these things that you shouldn't." And then when you see that these are both sides, both extremes are in the same spectrum, I find myself more comfortable now exploring objectivism. I read Rand like 10 years ago for the first time, and now I'm doing the OAC, and I find that objectivism has answers that not even libertarians in Latin America are willing to discuss in individual liberty and in economic freedom. But then you see that not only your natural enemies, like the left wing or the socialists, are a problem to overcome, but also your natural allies, as you were saying, right? Like the conservative movement that might embrace your economic ideas, but not the rest of the package. Do you think that this is something that is specific of this generation and the internet is contributing for it to be more difficult than in the past? Or do you think that they are selling us the idea that right now we live in times where people are saying that they deeply care about issues, but they don't go to find the real solutions in science, in reasoning, in philosophy?
I think the internet's interesting. I think it has both elements, right? It makes tribalism way worse, and you just get like eternal infighting and cross-fighting between tribes. And if you spend half an hour on Twitter, it can be a pretty depressing thing, for the future of our country and world. But on the other hand, it also allows for, like, if you think about the real innovation. So, if you look at productivity statistics, they look not that great for the last few decades. I think part of what's happened is a lot of the greatest innovations are more in not like brand new products or industries, but in niches, so that you can find much more of like your own personal universe of values versus like everybody, all women are wearing the same 3 blouses and all guys are picking from you have 3 beers and 3 kinds of sodas. There's this whole universe where you can pick all sorts of values, and that includes intellectual values. And so what you also have the ability to do today is you get to really search for this kind of cluster of ideas in this intellectual home that you wouldn't have been able to find, 20 years ago. And I think that is a really healthy sort of thing, because it allows people who are part of intellectual minorities to find other of those minorities. And that has 2 things. First of all, just as an individual, when you are surrounded by people that you have some alignment with, that feels really good. It feels like a lot less lonely. But it also allows good ideas to both improve and spread at a much faster level, right? Because if I hadn't met, some of the people you have interviewed and will interview, like Onkar Ghate, Alex Epstein, Rob Tarr, it's by knowing those people that I've become a much better thinker and much more effective thinker and writer. And so when you allow those people who are kind of in those intellectual niches to get to know each other, to get to talk, to get to learn from each other, you can have a much rapid spiral. Now on the downside, people with really bad ideas, they get to do that too. So it's not a 100% victory, but I think that is at least cause for hope, because I think when you have good ideas become better at a fast rate, that is something that is an unallied positive.
So in your experience, do you think more people are drawn to objectivism now that, let's say, 10 years ago?
It's been interesting. There's far more interest in the philosophy and the quality of people studying the philosophy and how much they know about it and can actually implement it is way more than when I got started. I mean, back in the 90s, it was like if you heard Ayn Rand's name once every year, you were just ecstatic, like, oh my gosh, the culture hasn't completely forgotten about her. And we're at a way different state. I think there's much more familiarity with her. But one thing that hasn't happened is I have not seen the kind of growth and interest in Ayn Rand translate into really an accurate understanding of her ideas, and certainly not into as many as I expected, people who were really understood them at a deep level and were able to communicate them as professional intellectuals. That has not happened to the degree that I expected.
But is this because people are not reading Rand directly, but rather are reading stuff about Rand from someone else?
I don't know exactly what it is, but certainly if you're not reading her and not reading in an active-minded way, like I think a lot of people read something and then they think, okay, I've understood it. Whereas if you're really reading any thinker, that it's a very active process of challenging them, asking questions, asking yourself questions, and engaging deeply with the material. And we're not really taught to do that with anybody, let alone somebody who's challenging our fundamental moral and philosophic beliefs.